Hello guys, welcome to my channel The Minisoft Tech. Today we are going to discuss about the virtual log file that is called as the VLF. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so the condition is what is the virtual log files. Okay, so virtual log files. The SQL Server database engine divides each physical log files internally into several virtual log files. Okay, virtual log files have no fixed size and there is no fixed number of virtual log files for a physical log file. Okay, so in SQL Server you might have seen that there is a .ldf file is there, and we see only one the log file. Okay, but how internally it works is it creates the multiple virtual log files and data is written into that. Okay, so the greater the number of virtual log files you know takes the longer time for the recovery. So Microsoft suggests that there should not be more than 50 virtual log files. If the virtual log files is more than 50, then the database recovery takes a longer time. When the SQL services are crashed and when it is restarted, then database recovery takes longer time. So it is recommended to reduce the virtual log files. So you might have observed in your environment when the SQL services are restarted, it is taking the longer time to come up. So why it is taking longer time to come up? So there is a reason that virtual log file is more. And while scanning all the virtual log files, it takes longer time. So that is the reason behind it should have the the less virtual log files. So how to fix it? Okay, so I will show you the query, you know, by running that you can find out, how, for each database, what is a virtual log file, what is the count of virtual log files. So once you find out if the virtual log file is more than 50, it may be 1000, it may be 800 or 1300, like that. It may be, more than 50 or 100, it has to be considered. So how to fix it? Okay. So first step is backup the transaction log file if the recovery model of the database is full. Okay. So normally we keep the full recovery database model, right? If it is simple recovery model, no need to take the backup. Okay. Simply you can go ahead and shrink the file. Another one is issue a checkpoint manually so that pages from the buffer can be written down to the disk. So when you run the checkpoint, the dirty pages are written to the disk, and pages are marked as clear so that it can be they reduced, the size of the log file can be reduced. Make sure there are no huge transactions running and keeping the log file full. So if the still the transactions are running, and even if you try to take the log backups, it will not help much. So better to check there are no long running transactions running on the server. Once you take the full backup, once you take the log backups, okay, shrink the log file to a smaller size. Okay, so probably you can make it to 1 GB or even less than 1 GB. Regrow the log file to a larger size on which your log file generally keeps on working. So keeping the auto growth is very important. Based on that, your log file is going to grow. Okay. So here are the VLF virtual log files, how the virtual log files are created and how many number of files are created. It based on here. So SQL Server 2012 and earlier, if the grow is 1 to 64 MB, then it used to create the four new virtual log files. Okay. Say for example, if it is 50 MB, so it is divided equally and it creates four virtual log files. For 64 MB to 1 GB, if the grow is 64 MB to 1 GB, then it creates the 8 virtual log files. Okay. So example 250 MB grow, then it divides 8 virtual log files into 31.25 MB. And if the grow is 1 GB or larger, it creates 16 new virtual log files. Okay, in the equal size, and it gives, for example, if 1 GB grow gives 16 virtual files of 62.5 MB. Okay. So as per the latest version of the SQL 2014 onwards, if the growth is less than 1/8 of the current log file size, it creates one virtual log file of the growth size. Say for example, 10 GB log files growing 1 GB means if the data growth is 1 GB, it gives one virtual log file of 1 GB. If the growth is more than 1/8 of the current log file, okay, it means that if it is more than the 10 GB, okay, log file uses the SQL algorithm. So 10 GB LDF growing 2 GB gives 16 virtual log files of 125 MB. Okay, so it is suggested, okay, that keep the virtual log files maximum to 1512 MB auto growth and reduce to 1 GB. Okay, so we are going to see in our environment, okay, if you run this command dbcc staff from sys.dmdb log info, you will get to know how many virtual log files are created. So you can see that the database ID is 5 because I have given here 5. So for the bank database, the database ID is 5. Okay, you can also check the database ID by running the command sp help db. So if you run this command, you can get the database ID. Okay. Okay, so you can see that the database ID is 5 for the bank. That is what I have given here. Okay, so you can see that the number of files, how many files are created. See, there are around 183 virtual log files are created. Okay, and what is the size? Virtual log file size is 64 MB, and these are the virtual sequence number. Okay, so you can see that the size is 64 MB, 128 MB, but virtual log size in MB is 64 only. So let's go to the database and see what is the auto growth. Okay, so you can see here the log size is 9928 MB. Okay, and growth is 64. That we are going to reduce it. Okay, so earlier we have seen that how to reduce the log file size is to backup the transition log file. Okay, so we are going to take the backup of the database. I think I have not taken earlier, so let's backup the database. So this is not recommended for you since I am taking the backup for the first time, so I am taking the full backup. But when you face this issue, only you have to run is you have to just run the transition log backup only. Okay, so let it get completed. Meanwhile, we can run some other commands. Okay, and here you can see that even if you run this command, okay, so you will come to know that how many virtual log files we have. So here you can see that database ID is 5, virtual log files are 183, and this is the virtual log file size. That is nothing but the accumulation of all the virtual log files. The size is 9827 MB. Okay, so it will show you the result for all the databases, but here what I have done is I have selected particular database ID 5 and here it is showing. Okay, so let's see if the backup is completed. So as of now 70% is completed. Okay, so meanwhile we can also check it out. Okay, if you go to shrink the file, okay, we have to select files. So if we have any space to shrink it, okay, so you can see that all 99% space is free. Okay, you should also be able to see like this. So it should be 99% free, then you can get the space. Okay, so almost 90% is completed. So guys, if you see that if there is a learning, okay, from the videos, and if you learn something, then please subscribe to my channel, like the video. Okay, the backup of the database is completed successfully. Okay, so backup is completed. Now I'm going to just run the tlog backup. Okay, so I have to select transaction log backup, and here I have to remove this log dot tl. Okay, so backup is completed successfully. So if I want to shrink it, I have to go shrink files. So here you have seen the steps. Transaction log backup is taken. Issue a checkpoint. So normally when you run this, you know, the tlog backup, it runs the checkpoint. But still, if you want to run it, you can go ahead and use bank and hit the command checkpoint. So this you have to run if you are not seeing this page to reclaim. So here I am to go log file. Okay, and here I'm going to reduce to 1 GB. So 1024. All right. So as per the recommendation, make sure there is no huge transactions running. Okay, sync the log file to a smaller size and regrow the log file. Okay, so we are going to say that. So I'm just going to give 1024. Okay, so it is shrink. So let me see if the log file is shrink. Okay, guys. So we can see that we try to take the full backup. Sorry, tlog backup. So here I'm going to take the couple of tlog backups. Okay, so I've taken two tlog backups for the bank database. Okay, and now I'm just going to run the the checkpoint manually. Okay, okay, now I'm going to shrink the the database, the log file. Okay, now see what is the the log size after shrinking it. Okay, so here you can see that the log file has been shrunk to 1032 MB, and I have increased the the auto growth size from 64 MB to 512 MB. That is the recommended value. Okay, so that the log file, virtual log file, will not increase much even though the huge the transactions are happening. So that is the way we can control the virtual log files. So more the number of virtual log files, it takes longer time for the database to recover. Okay, so here earlier we have seen that there were around 183 virtual log files. Let's see how many virtual log files we have now. Okay, so now we can see that we have around 44 virtual log files, and here you can see that what is the virtual log file size, and here you can see the it is active or inactive. So you can see that it is inactive. Okay, so it has been dropped down from 183 to 44. Okay, so the guys in your environment you might have observed the issue that after this server restart, the SQL server database takes longer time to come up and it goes into the recovery. Okay, so if that is the case in your environment, then please check the virtual log file count, and if it is more than 100 or 2000, in some cases I have seen that it is even the 5000 virtual log file count. If that is the case, please shrink the log file and keep the autogrowth to 512 MB, and let's make it less than the 50. So that is the the recommended value, less than 50 or equal to 50, not more than that, so that your database recovery will be very fast. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the videos and you had a great learning. Please subscribe to my channel, share my videos, and hit the like button. Thank you.